Welcome to Week 3 lecture video for the course Psychology 5342, Teaching Psychology. The title of this lecture is Getting Your Students Ready to Read. This lecture is based on our reading material for the course, McKeachie's Teaching Tips, 14th edition, Chapter 4. The aim of this module, or the lecture goals, is that we want our students to learn the skills of reading like a professional in the field. Goal number 2 is that we want our students to put their skills to use and actually read the text assignments we have carefully selected for them. Textbooks or text. The key takeaway is that we want to teach our students how to diversify their reading. Not just reading the information, but how to read each type of text presented. Mindful learning and deep processing. Mindfulness refers to being aware and proactive in learning. Through research, we have found evidence that there are 3 types of mindfulness in reading texts. There is mindlessness, mindfulness, and then, as the author of the textbook says, GPS engaged. So what does that mean? Whenever we are engaging in mindlessness reading, we are just reading the words on a page. There is no thought, there is no processing of the content, there is no relating of the context. It is simply scanning through, reading through the pages, the words on a page, with no meaning or comprehension of what the overall message is. Mindfulness is now there is a strategic reading. You are reading with an awareness of looking for answers. You are reading with an awareness of finding understanding and gaining knowledge. Mindfulness is where we want to begin our students in reading the material that has been outlined and assigned in the course. And then there is also GPS engaged, where we are so focused on finding the answer that all of the other information, all of the rudiment information that is necessary for a complete thought is completely overlooked. And so as an instructor, we are to find balance for our students that will move our students past the mindlessness reading, that they become mindful of what they're reading without being so engaged in finding the answer that they miss the overall meaning of the context. This leads right into deep processing. As an instructor, you are to take your students beneath the surface features to see any underlying structure of an idea or a reading, one that makes clear how the idea fits with other ideas and what makes it unique. A perfect place to exemplify or to move your students into deep processing and mindful learning is in the discussion board. In the discussion board, this is where you are able to ask questions that will cause for deep processing, either as the original prompt or in questions that will continue to move your students along in the reading of the material for the week. This may be an example that you give or a video that you may show that again will ask the student to make connections between what has been read and what they are seeing. Having our students to engage in mindful learning and deep processing will now make reading the material a plus and a benefit for their learning. In our textbook, there is a strategy that was mentioned and described, and we're going to describe it here. The method or strategy to get our students to read is called SQ3R. The S stands for survey. Surveying is where the students will skim the reading for the first time to get an overall understanding of the organization of the text, a general impression about what is the reading about. In the survey stage of SQ3R, the students will look at the title, the main headings, figures, and tables, not really in depth, but just to construct an overall, a mental picture of the way the reading is going to lay out in the content, or is going to lay out the content. The Q in SQ3R stands for question. The questions that we want our students to ask as they are reading the material is the why, the how, and the when questions. Research has shown that when students are asking the why, the how, and the when, they are moving into a deep processing of the information versus the shallow of the who, what, and where. These questions become the plan for intentional reading. Now your students are reading for a purpose. They are reading with a purpose. They are reading for understanding and comprehension. So here are some sample questions that you can use in teaching your own courses in psychology. Here is a model for learning about the learning theory or any other theory that is presented in your psychology course curriculum. Here are the questions that we have for you. Number one, how does this theory describe learning? This can be applicable to any theory that we have to teach in psychology because every theory leads to or lends itself to learning about human behavior. Number two, given the description that they have given to you in number one, what has to happen in order for learning to occur? Again, this question stem can be applicable to almost any theory in psychology in that they all are about learning, either learning about the behavior or learning about the function or learning about the way that our brain works as it relates to learning. So these questions are applicable to any theory that we have in psychology. Question three, how should instruction be designed to make that happen? This can be a question that you may want to use as an instructor. How can you impact the learning of your students centered around the theories that are being presented in the psychology content curriculum? And number four, when does this model of learning apply and not apply based on learner or situational characteristics? Again, this is just a sample that was found in our textbook and our reading for the week. We hope that this serves as a model to kind of get you thinking and engaged of how you can lead and guide your students into questioning or asking questions about the content as they are reading. Now, going back to our example that we have, or our strategy, SQ3R. Here are the 3 R's. The 3 R's stand for read, recite, review. Read. This is where your students will actually process the reading of the material. They will now read it because they have gone through the process of scanning or surveying. They have asked questions about where they think the author is going with the material, and now they're going to read to confirm their thinking and to add insight to their thinking. The next R is recite. This is the part where the readers try to answer the questions constructed at the beginning. Now they are having a dialogue with the author based on the questions that they have asked, the reading that they are now doing, and being able to answer the questions or reach or revamp their questions to better suit the context of the reading that they are engaging in. And the last R stands for review. Review is the self-monitoring step in which the reader compares his answers after reading to what was actually in the reading. Also in our textbook, there was a modified version of the SQ3R to the SQ6R, with the first two mimicking or about the same. Again, the S stands for survey, where they will survey the reading. The Q stands for questions. They are to write down some questions that it seems to address. Then they will read. Then they will reflect. then they will review, and then number 6, they will rehash. Rehashing can happen in a individual place. It can happen in a group setting. Perhaps you want to bring in the last 3 R's in the 6Q, 6R into the class or into your discussion board. You may want to have the students to reevaluate their questions, reevaluate their thinking, rethink their position, and now bring those answers as a part of a response to the students of how they answered the question before. So the SQ6R is a perfect vehicle even to use in your discussion board, especially the last 3 R's, and how to have your response postings a little bit more constructive. Many times we have found that the instructors will leave the response posting to more of just respond to your classmates, just respond to your peers, not really knowing how do you want me to respond to my peers besides saying great job or I like what you said, which is not what the instructor wants, but then there's not really any guidelines or parameters for the students to follow. The SQ6R provides and lends itself with the last 3 R's and how to constructively guide your students and how to respond to the questions of their peers in the discussion board. So how do you get the students to read the assigned readings in the first place is the question that we are going to attempt to answer here and give you insight in how you can carry out this question in your own classroom. And so through research and in our reading, in our text, the answers or the assumptions or the reasons have been given and listed before you. The main reason students come to class unprepared is that they don't see the difference it makes. Many times the lectures are independent parts of the course. Sometimes they're overlapping, sometimes they're supplementary, but they're often not perceived as interdependent. Many times if the students do not read the text, then the lectures gives all the information from the text, and so the students figure that they don't have to read because the lectures are going to give them all the information anyway. So why read the text? Other reasons of students not reading the assigned readings in your course is that they don't have the self-confidence in their ability to read the articles. They really don't know what they're reading. They don't know how they're supposed to read it. They don't even know what they're looking for. They want to know, what do you want them to do with the reading that they have? So instead of asking those questions, they just won't read. And they'll wait for you to give them more explicit instructions. They'll wait for them to give you more information, and then they will read when they see that there is a need to read the information. Another reason is they're simply not interested in the topic, which is a very humanistic reason, a very transparent reason for students to give. They're just not interested, and they will only read if they find that their interest is not based on their love of the topic, but their interest is in doing well with the material in order to pass or to take care of the assignments that you have given to them. And the last reason of why students don't read the assigned readings in the first place is that they don't understand the importance of the reading for their learning. The question is, how will this help me understand the field? How will this help me pass the test? How will this help me do well in the course? They need to find a valid reason, or they need to find the value of the reading in order to engage in the reading. So the question now becomes, why don't instructors challenge students to read at a higher level? And it comes down to our expectations and beliefs about the student abilities. If we're going to allow the information on the former or previous slide to now gauge our expectations and beliefs about the student abilities, then we will never assign our students to read anything. We'll just take care of it for them. We believe that they don't understand how to read the material. We believe that they don't understand what they're looking for. We believe that they're not interested in the material. We believe that they don't value the information to begin with. And so we'll just spoon feed and give the information to them. And now both sides have been justified and nothing has been accomplished. So here are some suggestions of how you can have your students to read the material that you give them to promote their own academic achievement and success. One way is to build links to the course. Just as we are doing here, there is a reason, a need for you to read as you are reading this information in the textbook, and as it is being complemented by the lecture, there are assignments that will encompass both. I am not giving you everything that is in the textbook so that you will have to read it, so that you have a complete understanding of how to complete the assignments assigned to you in this course. In the same way, you are to do the same thing for the students that you will teach. Build links to the course as frequently as you can. Use the readings in class exercises. Any question that has to be asked, ask the students to read a page if you want to give them a page number and cite where the information came from. You have to give your students a reason to read and you have to execute it in the moment. And then the last suggestion is to build reading assessments into the grading structure, that you are looking for their reading of articles outside of the textbook. You are looking for them to cite where they got the information from. You are looking for a synthesis of information based on what they know and what they are reading, and then put it into their own words. You must build reading assessment into the grading structure in order for your students to read the content in the first place. This particular reading strategy is in our text, and I wanted to lift it as it is, place it here so we can have some conversation, or I can describe it to you so that you can implement it into your own course as creatively as you decide or see fit to do so. And this is called team-based reading, team-based learning. And we have the authors of this strategy listed and written before you. When there is a reading assignment, you can always preface the reading with a short quiz that the students will take independently. Maybe you want them to read a chapter over the weekend and you have a quiz that is due Sunday evening that they will have to answer before they come to class on Monday before you discuss the chapter. So the students will take the quiz and you're able to see what answers they got right, what answers they got wrong, and then now they will retake the quiz, but now as a group, 3 students in a group. Performance of the group quiz is added to the individual performance. And then you will follow up by going through the items as an entire class. Particularly for those students that did not do well, now they are able to read through or have the information presented to them 3 ways. First time independently, second time as a group, third time as a class. Discussing why some answers are right and why some are wrong is a great way to make sure that your students go through that deep reading or that deep learning into the reasoning behind the answers. So here's the bottom line. The bottom line is that you must give credit to encourage reading. Your students have busy lives and they need to make strategic decisions about how they spend their time. Help them. Build the reading into your evaluation system that will make the direct connection from the readings that they will have to do to the grades that they hope to achieve. So this is a recap. To teach our students how to read, we will have to do the following. Teach them to look at the topic headings before each chapter. Number 2, teach them to write down questions in the book margins or in their notebook or on their electronic device, whatever means they have for recording information. Step 3, teach them to mark within the text as they read, either by underlining or making comments or highlighting as we have in step 4. Teach them to underline and highlight important concepts and ideas. Step 5, teach them to carry on a pseudo dialogue with the author. This is where your questions, the strategy that comes in SQ3R, where you're asking them to ask questions and they're reading, looking for their answers and asking more questions. They are having this pseudo dialogue with the author. And then teach them to journal about their readings. In the online setting, your journaling about your reading is the discussion board. There is great emphasis on the discussion board because that is the place as an online instructor that you will have the most impact and direct contact with your students. And so this is where you can continue to foster the deep learning of the reading of the material through your discussion board. You can also have this in your assignments that you give to your students. Make sure that they reference any and all reading material and push them, challenge them to find resources outside of the textbook. Again, your aim is to create a deep processing of learning and move them away from the surface level of learning any material that will not benefit you as the instructor or them as the adult learner.